Last week, I discussed thrifting and collaborating with other creatives on thrifting missions. Do I feel like I miss out on items when I'm thrifting with other creatives? Well, if you want to find out, head on over and take a listen. Now, in this week's episode, I will be interviewing Jen Dunn from Rustic Rehabs out of Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin. She has the cutest shop where she creates the most stunning vignettes with her thrifted and upcycled finds, and I am so excited to find out how she went from the corporate world to owning her own small business.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled. I'm your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock. I want to thank you all for joining me on my podcast. This is episode 17. I've been interviewing a new guest every other week, and it's been so interesting to hear the different small business journeys. And I'm hoping you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. Now, in today's episode, I'm interviewing Jen Dunn from Rustic Rehabs, and I met Jen several years ago at a conference that we both were attending. After chatting with Jen, I discovered that she was also from Wisconsin. I mean, like, what a small world. And I started following Jen's small business journey and watching her lives. When I started planning my retreat in October, I knew right away I wanted to ask Jen to be one of my creatives. And I'm so excited she said yes to my event and to be on my podcast today. So let's give Jen a big welcome. Let me bring her on right now. Hey, Jen.
Hello. Hi.
Yes. So first and foremost, I want to say thanks so much for being here today. I appreciate it. I'm super excited about that. For my viewers and listeners that haven't had the opportunity to have met you or found you yet, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I think you mentioned that I was in the corporate world. So I was in IT for 25 years. I actually went to school for psychology and ended up doing psychology and criminal justice. Went on an internship, and my boss said I hated it. I hated computers. I used a word processing typewriter instead of a computer. And my boss was like, "Okay, Jenny, come here. Here's the hard drive. Here's the motherboard. There's the memory. There's this." And he's showing me all this. He took the cover off a computer. And I was like, "Why are you showing me this?" He goes, "The next time the phone rings, you answer. You're the help desk." That's how I got into my IT world.
Really?
That was my entrance into my first job, my first career kind of job out of college. And that was with a nonprofit. And then I ended up going to a few different places, and then I just kept sort of climbing the ladder in the support area of IT. So I ended up working for one of the Fortune probably 50 companies, Wells Fargo, and I knew that I could lose my job, but I was so burnt out after so many years of doing this job that I had some aspirations to have my own business, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And I started watching painting videos with the Junk Monkey woman. She would do all these paint flips, and they were entertaining. And then she opened a business coaching group. And I actually had this other idea for parties for women where you didn't have to buy stuff like Tupperware party or Mary Kay or something like that. Parties where you could go learn things. And I did a few with my friends, and nobody wanted to pay $30 for it. And so I was like, what is this? So I was out in the garage painting because I also started painting with their paint. And I realized that's what I'm supposed to be doing. It's the painting. It wasn't this other thing at all that I thought I was supposed to do for 20 years. So I think I'm here to say it's never a straight line for most of us. It can be very confusing, and it can look like you're all over the map, but it's good to try those things to figure out what you don't want to do. Right.
Yes.
to lead you to where you do.
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of very like I was in the corporate world too, or,
Yep.
but I, and I worked for a company for many years, and like I just look back now, and I was so scared though to leave that job. I felt like a security blanket, and the day I left, it
Complete.
was like it
Yeah.
was just like so much lifted off my shoulders, and my business bloomed, and it's exactly where I should have been many, many moons before that. So,
It's
um,
interesting that you say it that way, because there is a combination, at least for me, there's a combination. There's the corporate world, when you're salaried, you have all your benefits, there's money being put in your 401k every other week and stuff. There
yeah.
is a lot of security with that, right?
Mhm.
And people
Right.
will tell me, or you get told this too, that you're brave. And you know what? I don't feel brave, but some days I really don't feel brave, right? Like some days I'm like,
Mhm.
what am I doing? But you have to, I don't remember what I was listening to the other day, but I listened to a lot of different podcasts and masterclass on things, and they were saying the entrepreneurial game is really a head game. Like you have to keep talking yourself through it, because
Mhm.
it's not all the fun it doesn't always just bloom and blossom,
Right.
right?
Right. Well, and every new step that you take, I mean, I feel like I have, like, insecurities, like, "Am I gonna be successful? Like, is this the way my business should be going?" And then I'm like, "Nope, you're just gonna do it, Sonnet. You're gonna just take the plunge, and you're gonna do it." But there's always, like, those self-doubts, because you're now
Yes.
your own, you know what I mean? Before I could rely on that company, and now I'm relying just on myself and my own ideas, and so it can be really scary. So,
Yeah, I agree.
ever
I agree. Yet I still don't want to go back to the
No,
way
me
it was.
either. I don't
I'm
either.
like, it's scary. It's hard to make money, even though when you're looking successful, it's still hard. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
I
Actually,
know.
this is reminding me of a show I just watched called Hacks. And she's like, it's about a comedian who's been successful for many years, but she says something like, it never ends. You always will be scratching and clawing to get what you need. And I was like, oh
Mhm.
my God, that's so desperate and sad. But yet, if you want to be successful, you need to grow. You probably never will rest on your laurels,
No.
right?
No. And my friends actually say, like, "Don't you feel like you're working harder than you
Yes.
did when you were working in the corporate world?" And I say to them, I may be working more hours, but it's for me. And to me, a lot of this doesn't feel like work.
Right.
I enjoy it so much. I enjoy the creative aspect of it. I just all of it. And I know it's for me. And I think one wake up call was like, well, I was in a sales position, and I would just kill it every month at this company. And every year, my projections would just go up and up, and it was like they were wanting me to fail because they would skyrocket so much. It was like I love stretch goals because I work really well with that, but there were points where I'm like, I don't even know if I'm gonna get, like, my check would be like my regular paycheck, but my bonus too. I'm like, I don't even think I'm gonna get my bonus this month because they had increased my projections so much. And it was like they wanted me to struggle. They didn't want to pay me out, but they knew I was going to get all those sales. So I'm like, why not just do stuff for myself? So,
There's times when, especially when I first started, and right, we work the hours that we need to for
mhm.
our businesses, right? So
Yeah.
what hours is my shop going to be open and stuff like that? And I would be driving to Menards, and I would just get this big grin on my face, because I would go like, I'm walking around with all the construction workers going to pick up their stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my job
Yeah.
now. Going here and buying this stuff is part of my job. So
I
yeah, it's good,
um,
challenging, but
yes.
but you decide.
That's right. And I feel like it's challenging, but rewarding. I feel very like when I read comments from viewers or, like when I create something that I just think is like amazing. I'm like, oh, I get to do this for a living and I get to
Yeah.
work with all these amazing, viewers and customers. So, and
Yeah.
you get to see them on a daily basis, which is so cool.
It is. It is. And one of the best things is like if some of my favorite things are working with kids. Like I recently painted a dresser and I named it after my grandpa for some reason. I had just seen my grandpa in at Easter and then he passed away like the next month. And so, but he's very feisty,
Mhm.
like very stubborn. That's part of the reason he lived to be 95. So
Yeah.
I named it Willie, and then this little girl came in and they bought it for her, but they're like, she wants some flowers or something on it. Oh, she wants flamingos on it. So we
Okay.
put flamingos on it, and she
Oh,
is in love with it. I love that. Or I love
yes.
somebody bringing in their sentimental piece, right? That was
Mhm.
part of their family, and giving it another lease on life. I think that I'm very honored when people trust me to do that.
Right. Yes, and when I had a storefront for just, like a 3-year stint, and now I only have booths, but that is one thing I loved. I love the interaction with customers. So that's why when people interact with me on my comments, I mean, it's like or even when I receive a phone call and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you answered the phone?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a one-woman business here, like I'm just a one-woman show." But then they're so excited and then we chat for a while. So it's kind of like I miss that part of it, the
Hmm.
interacting like in person. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can
um
understand that.
yeah, but it's so cool though that, you have that and I was very fortunate. I was able to actually head down to your shop. Jen and I went on a little thrifting mission and then I was able to see your shop. It's so super cute and
That's
I know your expansion was what you wanted to do. You wanted to expand, but that I'm sure has been a bit challenging in itself.
Yeah, I know you. I know this might be foreshadowing a little bit into some of the obstacles, but um, uh, yeah, we're doing a little mini expansion again. Not adding to our footprint. Not adding to our
Oh,
footprint.
okay. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
What?
no, no, no. I've got enough here now to handle. But you're always when you have either a booth or a brick and mortar, you're always trying to figure out how to utilize this space better. And so there's
Yeah.
a space in the back that used to be where my big table was, where I would do all my painting when I first started. And since we moved over to the other side's got a lot of windows. It's very bright and inviting. This portion is a little more challenging. So I'm having an anniversary. My third year in business is we're going to be celebrating June 22nd. So we're going to be
Awesome.
having some door prizes. I've got a little spinner, and we'll do spin to win your percent off. And then we're going to unveil this back of my room. It's a secret right now. We're working on it, but I'm
Ooh.
really excited about it because kind of back to what we were talking about, you can do whatever you want. It's your business. And so I'm like, okay, gals, I've got a team of 4 and then my daughter who's 16. And they all work part-time. And I said, we need to do something with this. And first I thought it was going to be one thing. Then I thought it was be something else. And then when it came time to do it, I didn't want to do either of those things.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I've learned by I just went to a conference in April, and it's about like knowing if there's one thing I would say from the beginning. You said this to somebody recently, and I was cheering. You're like, if you have a booth, you have a business,
Yes.
and you need to treat it like that from the beginning and start to get to know your numbers and see what things work because neither of us came from that background, and so
Mhm.
it's really hard. People be like, oh, you work for a bank, no, I don't know anything about that stuff. So I'm looking at what attracts customers to my shop now, and there's this little area that I'm like, that's what I need to do. And then I got excited about it and I couldn't wait to tell everybody, and they're like, I thought it was this. I'm like, that's too decisions ago. Now we're doing this.
I love it.
So maybe
Well,
we in one woman's show, you just have those conversations in your head where I have 4 different people who hear something depending upon which day of the week. They're like, what? When was that going to happen?
right. I know. And it's funny because I tell my mom a lot of stuff because my mom and I used to be like well,
Yeah,
we had our shop together and I'll be like, Mom, I told you. And she's like, no, you haven't mentioned this. So maybe it is like a conversation that I've been having with myself.
I mean,
Oh,
it's hard. There's a lot of ideas.
I know. And I write them all down. Let me tell you, like when I wake up in the middle of the night, I swear, like I have a notebook and pen next to me. And I'm like, if I have an idea, I'm like, I'm writing it down right now or I'm going to totally forget. So,
That's a good
but
idea. I use
yeah.
my phone. I have
Oh,
lots of different lists in my phone.
yeah, I do too. But I don't know. I'm blind as a bat. So
Oh
I'll be
yeah.
totally honest. If I do not have my contacts in or my glasses on, I am totally blind. So
So can you even read what you wrote the next day?
yeah, barely. But as soon as I put my glasses on, but yeah, like it's the lighting on my phone, that's the part that my husband and I both are like, gosh, when it gets darker, it's harder to read things and like I have to like brighten the screen way up
I
and
know.
stuff. So
Me too.
I'm like,
That's
well,
called old age.
I know. I know. My eye doctor told me once you hit 40 on it, I'm like, it ain't gonna happen to me.
I know. I used to sit in the corporate when we go out for lunch. I would hold the menus for my friends across the thing. Like, do you need me to hold this up? And now I really should wear readers.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I finally broke down. I mean, my viewers kind of laugh at me. They're like, Sonnet, you need your readers on. I'm like, I know, I do.
that
So
sucks. Yeah.
I know it does, but oh well. So it's, you know what? We're still standing, right?
Yes.
On the right side. So
Yeah.
I'm just happy about that. But so okay, so we talked about you being in the corporate world and then you found out that you loved painting. Like what was the decision? Like what was the turning point where all of a sudden like I get you loved painting, but what made you to leave the corporate world and then just open a shop?
Yeah. Yeah, I got downsized. I
Oh,
had a team of 12 people. I managed project managers and network managers in like the
okay.
southwest part of the country,
Okay.
Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas for a few. And I knew that we were downsizing IT people because they had an agenda to get people back in the office in certain cities. They had a big scandal, Wells Fargo did, where they had all
Okay.
these millions of accounts were opened because sales goals were too aggressive, kind of like you were talking about with,
Yeah.
but in this company, this is where it went off the rails. And so their way of dealing with that was to try to figure out as a big company where to rein in, right?
Mhm.
And because I had a team of 12 people and I'd always been rated well and everything, I really didn't think it was going to be me.
Right.
I thought it was going to be people above me who had less people and stuff like that. But yeah, there was a bunch of us.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, just sobbing, tears of joy and tears of absolute abject fear because I was the breadwinner for my family for 25 years.
Okay.
So that last year before that, though, my husband had started in like 2019. My husband had started as a personal trainer, and he was building his own business. So we're both entrepreneurs, which is a little dicey and a little crazy sometimes. And so at that point, he had done well enough that he was able to take over and be the breadwinner and let me take my severance and put it into this business that I have.
Awesome.
And like the next day, I was out in the garage with my glasses on and my jigsaw, and I was getting ready to do something. And so I started right away out, and I worked in the garage for years doing custom work. And then I ended up getting a little delayed because I had an appendix burst during COVID.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so that was my first month of entrepreneurship, was on the couch watching Friends.
Well, at least you were watching Friends.
I had never
But
seen the whole thing, so now I have.
yeah. Oh. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how scary. Like your
Yeah.
appendix during COVID
Yeah,
and
because they kept
then
saying it was the flu, and yeah. But you just gotta, whatever life throws your way. I mean, your story about what happened to you, talk about scary. That was scary. I was driving and I was like, I'm not passing out. I'm not having a problem. Isn't that though human nature? If you want to, you got to just figure out how to move forward. Right. And so then it was like, okay, you can't lift anything over, this heavy for what. I'm like, I lift furniture. That's what I do. Yeah. Right. And so I kind of eased back into it. And then that took me, that was January, and I did a lot of work out of my garage and stuff, and a little bit of a respite from everything that summer. And then in September, I've got my first shop, and it was 250 square feet. And I painted furniture and taught classes and sold paint out of that spot. And
was it in like where you kind of are located now?
Yeah, it was literally up the street, like 2 blocks. I can see it if I stand out the door.
Okay. Yeah. So you were like near that. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I had seen, this building that I'm in now was vacant for the most part, except for the warehouse stuff that's owned by my current landlord. And I was waiting for this to be sold. And so I had that little one, and I was starting out. And the minute I signed the lease, I said, I know this is too small for me, but I need to start somewhere. Right. And I was scared. So I did that. And I would have to, every time I did a class, I would have to take my custom work and put it out in my car because there was no room. I could paint one piece of furniture at a time. And it was crazy. So when I started to see some action in this building that I was in, I would drive out of my way to go past this building, and I would look at it and I would be like, that's going to be mine someday. I'm going to be in that someday.
So you're like manifesting it into the universe.
I manifested the crap out of this.
I love it.
But careful what you wish for, because it's a lot of work.
Yes.
But yeah, I think sometimes we need to remind ourselves of these things, because when you are a doer and you push, there's a fine line between it being success and relentlessness, right? Yeah. I'm sure you find that.
Yes.
My little Energizer bunny.
Oh, I know my husband calls me that.
Yeah.
I know. Some days, he's like, you cannot sit still. And I just can't. I do remind myself so much of my grandma. My grandma could never sit still either. And I feel like I just have to keep going or doing something. And even at night when I finally like sit down to like hang out and relax, I'm still doing something. I'm still like,
me too.
Brainstorming.
Well, it's usually for this from the minute I wake up to the minute I crash, and then even in the middle of the night. Yeah.
But again, I don't feel like it is work. Like, I don't know. It's for me, like me and my family. And that's why I don't know. I just don't feel like it is work. I feel I'm having fun doing it. I'm having fun, with all the challenges and different obstacles that I'm finding, happen. But it's great. So I would never change it, for the world. I love how everything is transforming in my business. And I'm sure that's how, even though you have those ups and downs, you're feeling the same way. So
yeah, I think, then I got this space, and then I had a tenant next door. Wasn't my tenant, but there was a candle shop next door for a year. And her candles were a little expensive for the neighborhood and stuff. And so she would come in and she would ask me for help, and she was significantly younger, and I would give her my advice, but I was still learning too. Right. Yeah. And then when I saw that she was not probably going to renew her lease, I told my landlord I need it. Right. But I didn't know how I was going to do it. Right. And so sometimes I think I've gone to several talks recently where they say who you hang around with the most is who you end up to be like, right?
Oh,
and so I've been going to some of these talks, and I had 2 different people say that they basically jumped and then figured it out. Right. And so that's kind of what I'm doing with this expansion, because everything, I asked my husband, what should I do? What should I do? And he goes, well, if you expand to the other side, will you make twice as much money? I'm like, it doesn't work that way necessarily, right? It's not going to happen right away.
No.
And so he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a personal trainer. Like, I don't have that overhead.
Right.
Right. So I think I was talking to a friend, and this is where it kind of goes back to, again, know your numbers from early on so that you can have that stuff in and organized so you can look at what's working. And then, like in that situation, say, okay, this is working. So I know I just need to do more of this.
Right.
And if you don't, then you are kind of taking a leap of faith. And so I talked to a good friend who also has a business in my town, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And she's like, who would you bet on? Are you going to bet on yourself? And so then I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And like with my small business too, I'm trying to just diversify and add different revenue streams.
Yes.
And because like what I have noticed too, like my booths have taken a dip a little bit, and I think it's the economy, but then some of the other aspects like my online store is, it's like it's kind of all leveling off based on, but that way you don't feel so much, if you are diversified a little bit, you're not feeling the pain.
I think that's great advice. I mean, I think from the time that I don't think my advice would be get a website as early on as possible, right? Start doing it from the get-go if you can, so that you can, because another thing I heard you saying was, and it didn't occur to me until I was in a booth for about 6 months before while I was still in the corporate world, I was in a booth, and then I decided I was better off doing my own thing on Marketplace.
Right.
But it became really apparent to me that they don't promote all of the people, and they can't, honestly. If you have 70 different things, right?
Right.
And so, or more. So I think from early on, get on social media, start growing that. And this might segue into one of the next things, the live videos. The live videos have been huge. My phone is acting weird lately, so I haven't done them as often because I need to get a new phone.
Yeah.
But that's another thing, like invest in the technology, right? So you have good technology, because my phone is 98% of what I do.
Right. Oh, right. I know, like oh my gosh, I just have to tell you, like my last phone, I ended up dropping it. All of a sudden I was doing
Did you not have a case? Because I
did have a case.
All the time.
I have a case, and I dropped it, and I did not know that I did something to it, but I was videotaping, and I taped my whole video, and I went to edit it, and I could see one black dot, and I'm zooming in, and I'm like, I think I broke a pixel in my camera. And then, it bothered me. Like, oh my gosh, you could see, like, I'd be like panning over and you could see the black dot. So I'm like, this is my business. This is where I do like all of my taping on my phone. I have to make the upgrade. And, it's a lot, but I think to myself, if I had to buy a camera and this and that or whatever, it would be just as much. So
these things are worth their weight in gold to a small business. And if you are going to invest in something, invest in this and a decent tripod / ring light.
Yep.
And
I
then,
agree.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, so you haven't done lives now. I'm like, I haven't seen you lately.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm in a growth spurt still from growing into this side, and I'm doing the videos, the recorded videos are getting put on. My thrifting is getting put on Facebook and YouTube, and so I'm like 1,000 hours away from being monetized on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I just threw an idea out there the other day. This was a middle of the night idea, that I'm going to paint my way alphabetically through the DIY paint line.
That's awesome.
It's kind of like Julie and Julia with the cookbook. Have you seen that movie with Julia Child?
I haven't.
It's super cute. This woman who loves Julia Child, it's a true story too, based on a true story. She takes Julia Child's The Art of French Cooking and cooks her way through it. And then she blogs about it. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So I think I'm going to I've got one piece started, and I've been recording, and I think then I'm going to use that for edited video. I think I'm going to be doing a little more of that than my impromptu lives. Just
Okay.
because with the store and everything, it's a lot. And I haven't found my
Happy
schedule
medium.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's funny because I thought found a good schedule myself for like balancing my lives, my, edited videos and things like that. But then sometimes life happens and I can't go live. And like my viewers are like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
life happens. I can't always be live." So
Well, and one thing I
mm,
think people don't necessarily understand too is we go live because we're trying to show you stuff to sell you product. And so if it doesn't necessarily sell product, then it's not really doing what we're trying to do, right? I mean, it's fun to hang out,
yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, the lives are meant to be a way to promote our business. And nothing works as good as live video.
Oh,
So
right.
if you're just starting, do a store tour, do a, fly by the seat of your pants craft. And in
Hmm.
the back of your head, you can be going, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. And sometimes you can say it out loud too and
Right.
endear them to you.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, like, I have done edited videos for so long. My viewers are just so used to my edited videos. But now I've been going live for several years as well, and to this day, they still don't get that. Not all of them. Most of them understand what a live is about, but there are still some that think that it should be an edited video. They don't realize, like, when I'm painting something,
Oh
paint needs
yeah.
to dry. So,
Yeah.
like, this
Or like
I
I saw somebody say, you didn't plan very well. And you're like,
yes.
yes, I did. But you can change your mind on the
Right.
fly, right?
Yes, and that's kinda like I like getting ideas and suggestions from my viewers. I want my viewers to feel part of whatever I'm doing, and, like, then I get to find out what they like too, like, their different what decoupage paper is your favorite? What colors do you guys really like? But
Hmm.
another lady too said, "Well, that was 2 days of painting because I painted the first coat was black, and then I had to let it dry, so then I came back the next day, but I talked about how to use all the products. It's not like I just sat there and painted and didn't do anything."
Yeah, they're not for everybody. I feel like
No.
there is a
Yeah.
different kind of like the people who are live sometimes want to be chatty and friendly and they want to learn what you're doing too. But then the YouTube, the edited videos are more like, okay, you can tell your story, get to the brass tacks,
Yeah.
right? We don't have to see every paint stroke.
Right, and that's great. I mean, I love getting down to just, like, the steps and talking about suggestions and tips and tricks and, so yeah, there's definitely a difference, but I love doing lives, and I'm so glad that, back when I met Dion, Woods, she's like, "You need to go live," and I'm like, just when she said those words, like, my heart palpitated funny. I'm
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm like, "What? You really want me to go live?" And then I came home and I'm like, "Okay, this is the day I'm going live." And I put it on the calendar and I created in my event and I went live. So,
I
so
did
yeah.
it in the garage during a halftime of a Packer game
How many
because
people
I
will
don't really care. My family, my husband, and then my kid at the time, my son, one of my sons really cares about the Packers, but I really don't. It's like a comfort to have it on. And so it was a night game, I think. And I went in my garage and I was like, okay, I'm going to show you how to put on a transfer. And I'd only done it a few times and I was doing it live and it did not go well. But you know what? I lived. Like Heather would say, did you die? Right. I
No, I
lived.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the things I always put in the back of my head about doing a live video is I could always just hit the button and turn it off and say my phone broke or something.
Yeah,
But I've never had to
right.
do that.
Yeah.
And then one time I did 7 days of live at 7 o'clock
Oh
that
my
while I was
word.
still working in the corporate world. And I think it was winter too. And I was in the garage.
Wow.
But the thing is, like, something like that will get attention from your viewers, right? They're like, okay, I can commit
Absolutely.
to watching 7 times. Like, what's she going to do now? Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
That was cool. What a great idea. 7 days of lives at 7
seven,
o'clock.
7 and 7. Yeah. I might have to pull one of those out again,
You
but
should, 'cause
yeah,
I think it would be awesome. I would tune
yeah,
in.
yeah. I think maybe after I get this other thing off the ground, to get
Oh, right.
to get monetized on YouTube, because the
Yeah.
diversification of income, having several streams of it. So for me, my streams of income are selling the products in my shop. So I sell 2 different paint lines and several different artisan craft lines, and then all the things that I thrift, right? So those are all kind of different lines. Then I
Right.
retail some things that are home decor, like I'm doing a lot with greenery right now. I do custom painting. So that's always going on in my little painting room. Plus I sell my painted furniture, plus I teach painting classes, and now we're doing make and take classes. So
Wow.
plus I do get paid from Facebook for the videos, and now I want to get paid from YouTube for the videos. So I think sometimes people don't realize the plates we're all spinning, right?
Mhm.
To
Yes.
diversify.
Right.
But you're right. If there's a time when the store is really busy because we're doing an event in my town, then sales online are kind of slow, right?
Right.
And so there's times though when I've had a slow day in the store and I did a tour and I made more money on the tour than I did in the store. So you've got to, instead of just crying in your whatever
Yeah.
hands, you got to think,
Yeah.
okay, what can I do? Right?
Right.
If I have a slow day, I'm like, okay, well, this is when I get to work on my inventory or do the custom painting, right?
Mhm.
Or do a live video and remind them that you're here.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure doing your lives and even being on, like, YouTube and your Facebook, videos, I'm sure that drives a ton of traffic to your shop too. So, I'm not even at my booths, but I hear from the store owners or my booth owners that people come from all over. But they think that I'm gonna be there, several of them. They're like, "Where's Sonnet?"
Yeah, they
They're
don't quite
like,
get it.
"No."
I think I had one of mine down here that was driving up to get paint from you, and then she found out about me. Sorry.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
she's like, I really couldn't keep driving up there. I'm like, that's really far to go to get paint on a.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they don't quite. And well, it happens here too. I'll say, like, if you are coming in to visit and want to see me, let me know, because I'm running
Right.
around. The furniture doesn't deliver itself, right?
Right.
And
Oh,
if
absolutely.
it's our store and it's our style, that's something that you really can't farm out that easily, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Wow. I mean, it's just crazy, like the start of your business. So, I do have to find out though, like what made you decide to all of a sudden go into YouTube? I mean, like what made you start doing the videos and like that aspect of it?
Well, so this jump monkey woman, she had been doing YouTube too.
Oh, okay.
But they were a really small paint company, and um around around that was 2018 when I started doing this stuff in my garage and everything while I was still working. And then in 2020, um I had well, actually, I used to buy my paint from Jane Belante. So I started going to buy my paint from her. And then I started watching Debbie Beard's videos on DIY. And that's how I found Jamie and Zeb. And so
Okay.
I was in their business coaching from the inception until they shut her down.
Oh.
And they are very inspiring. And very honest too. And
Mhm.
so their business coaching, I would tell people, get in on that. They would do a live video once a week, and they would tell us mostly like what they were working on and some challenges that they had. And then they would, they would be like, get it, put it in a video. Whatever you're doing, you should be recording it and making a
Mhm.
video. And to the point where, Jamie would say everything is content, to the point where now when my neighbors, she knows when I'm over and I'm like, oh, I start recording. And then
Yeah.
now she's doing it because she also does, in my town, I'm actually the one who's the best at doing social media, which,
Yes.
but so I try to encourage them, to say like the bar is pretty low for some of these businesses. Like if you got on and you did like lives or something, it would really help. So anyway, Jamie and Zeb were huge. And I kind of more focused on Facebook because I felt like I had some instant success. If I would do a video and I would use a transfer something, guess what? People would buy those transfers. And so that
Right.
felt like, instant gratification. And so I did that for a long time to build up my following and everything. And then in fact, I kind of like fallen off the YouTube wagon. I couldn't juggle it all. And
Mhm.
then just recently in February, Jamie saw me use one of her pieces of decoupage paper on a project and then messaged me and said, let's collaborate. And
Aw.
yeah, and so we did. And that like was a catapult for me to get going back on the YouTube thing. And in fact, we were on the phone together talking about what we were going to do. And it was Jamie, Zeb, and even little Jack, her youngest boy, was running around. And she said, I said, I know. They're like, you can put it on Facebook or YouTube, whatever you're doing. I said, well, I'm better on Facebook, but I need to get on YouTube and then more. And they're like, how did I say it? I said, I paid you for 2 years or 3 years 3 years. I paid you every month for 3 years to tell me to get going with YouTube. And I haven't done it. She goes, well, now I'm telling you for free.
Right. Just do it.
I know
Oh.
it can be hard to do all the things, right? And so I thought like, okay, well, I'm just closer to getting monetized on Facebook. I'll do that, right? And I did,
Mhm.
and I am, but I do think I need to try this too.
You
I
do.
think the different audiences are looking for different things, and I'm even making the content that I could use in both places. That was a no-brainer that I just wasn't making
Right.
time for. Yeah,
Right. Yes, and actually when I started doing my lives, initially I was just on Facebook and so many of my YouTube viewers were sad. Like many YouTube viewers don't even do Facebook. So they were like, "Please come to," like, cuz on my YouTube videos I'd be like, "Okay, tonight I'm going live, on Facebook." And then people would say like, "I don't do Facebook. Can't you come on YouTube too?" And so that's when I started. I'm trying to remember when I did it. I finally am like, "Okay, I'm going to do both." And so now I go
that's when I
live.
did StreamYard and started doing
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I probably need to do that. I've even got a microphone here that I've never even took out of the box for
Oh my
months.
gosh. Oh, I don't
I
mean
know.
to laugh at you, but that's
No, it's ridiculous. It's
that's
ridiculous.
funny.
There's probably a new model.
There's probably How long have you had it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Fall
that's
sometime.
oh my
But
word.
yeah,
But yes, I know sometimes when you're juggling all the balls or all the things, it's hard to sometimes slow down enough to learn how to use that or like hook it
that's
up or
that's exactly it. It
yeah,
does. It requires some focus or me to delegate it to somebody else. And
right.
but some of those things can't be delegated really. It
No.
needs to be me who needs to learn StreamYard and the emails and all of that stuff.
Right.
One thing I would say to people is about especially Facebook is amazing, but I don't think people understand how little is actually shown to viewers.
It's like
Um,
3%.
it's
It's like
it's really crazy low, and
mhm.
if you don't do things that engage people back, it doesn't go much further than that.
Mhm.
And that's a lot of trial and error. And that's why I think if you're dealing with that at all, you need to get on the horse and do the live videos, because that will be pushed out way more than anything else. um, that's one of my best pieces of advice. I might not be
Mhm.
taking it right now, but I'm not giving up on it either.
No. No, and I think that, like as you are doing your new things right now, you sometimes have to slow down on something else to make something, to add something, so
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah. I mean, I'm what, October till now is what, 6 months, something a little more. There's from growing this space. We still haven't completely caught up with how to fill this space and keep it filled. So that's a growing pain for me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right. Oh gosh, I can completely understand. But you guys, her space is absolutely amazing. I love all your little vignettes and it just
it's
was super
fun.
cute. I
That
know.
part is fun. I'll be
That
like, you can put the stuff in Shopify and clean it and take it, but I'll put it out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Somebody
know.
said to me this weekend, "Are you an interior designer? If not, you should be." And I'm
Oh,
like, "Oh, no, no, no. This is just a lot of trial and error,
yeah.
right? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't go to school for any of this. I don't know about."
Right.
lights and,
Yeah.
all
No,
of the
I know.
things.
That's one thing I really miss from having our storefront is one of the things I love to do was our window displays. Oh, it was and we were in downtown Appleton, so they would have, like, window display contests all the
Oh, that'd
time.
be that I would be on board for that.
Oh my gosh, I would take it to the extreme. Because
You
I
know.
know. I'm like, "I'm winning this thing," and so I would just brainstorm the heck out of it, come up with these crazy ideas,
I
and
think
yeah.
I might need to build out an actual window area because I just have this little ledge and it
Okay.
makes it really hard to do anything with.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
you should.
yeah, that might have to be a future endeavor is to
Right.
make like a little tiny stage there. And
Yeah. Yeah, because then even at night, we had lights that would display down, and so our window was lit up, and um, it was perfect. Like people driving by would then, take notice because sometimes I think being like in the downtown area, there's glares on the glass window. They don't always see
yes,
it,
yes,
and they're driving by so quick. And sometimes when it's lit up at night, they're like, oh, "What's that? Oh my god, I never even knew that store was there."
yeah, you get
It,
that a lot. Yeah.
yeah. It's crazy, like, they lived in their town for how long, and they don't know I'm here? But
There was somebody I went to a rummage sale on Saturday. I ran out for a little bit. And there's a woman there who's like, "Oh, you bought from me at my house a few years ago over off of this street." And I think she was at her daughter's now. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then she goes, "Where is your shop?" I'm like, "It's literally a block from here.
right,
You don't know where it is?" It's literally like I could point and see my
right.
building almost.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, you can never take that for granted. And like I think the gal who was in here for a year, I think people hear that if you build it, they will come, right? And
Right.
if you open the door, it's not like that. You got to
Mm-mm.
hustle. You
Yeah,
got to keep being in there. You got to keep being, in their face in a
you
nice
do.
way. You can't be too salesy, right?
Right. You have to show up yes, you have to show up on the daily for your people,
You do.
and it's funny that you mentioned that about, opening the door and they will come. I just remember when the very first day we opened our business, we unlocked the door and my mom and I stood there and we're like, "Where's everybody?"
It's
We
kind of
didn't
like
even
when you were talking with the Reclaim Ranch one, when you hit like publish on your website,
Yeah,
it's not like all of a sudden they come flooding in.
right.
No,
Yes.
you gotta
Exactly.
you gotta keep directing them there. Oh, with every single post, you have to do it
Yes.
because otherwise they're gonna ask. Yeah,
Right. I know. I get asked that all the time, like, "Where can I find this?" And I'm like, "I swear to God, I said it."
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, so, but people wanna know. People want to be inspired, and, I love how, you paint your furniture, and yes, they are going to be inspired by what colors you pick, and then head right on over to either your website or your store to buy it. So,
yeah. Yeah, that's
um
my big mission is to show people you can do this,
right.
right? It doesn't, I am not a trained artist. I do not know lights and shadows and all of this kind of stuff. I call myself a paint slapper, right?
Yes.
I do because I just get it on and then embellish it with different things and don't expect it to be perfect because it won't
Right.
be, right?
Yeah. I know that's one thing too that I want to kind of start perfecting is like I would love to be able to be a beautiful blender of like the DIY colors and I would love to learn all those things. So that's something when I have some free time I'm gonna probably
You can learn it in October when
yeah.
who's Debbie is gonna teach it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Debbie's gonna teach it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm super excited about that she's
Yeah.
gonna be
Me too.
teaching all the things.
Me
So,
too, because I haven't done that either. I did make kind of a pottery barn kind of look using the cottage colors and
oh,
dark and decrepit, where I just kept sort of layering it on, but I'm
okay.
not sure if I can keep doing it. It might have been a happy accident.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's funny. Yes. So I have to find out though, like, okay, so you talked about how started your business, how it kind of was evolving. When did you start bringing the thrifting in? Like, did you all of a sudden, like, have you always been a thrifter or like one day
Oh,
you're like,
yeah.
I'm going to go thrifting?
It's funny because I can relate to you somewhat where you were saying when you were a kid, you
Yeah.
thought it was, I would say, I would always go. My grandma on the other side liked to thrift, and my mom always liked to. And I can even remember seeing things in the dump when we were taking things to the dump and being like, that could be useful still, right? At
Right.
like 16, that's not
Mhm.
a normal 16-year-old brain.
No.
Um, but my mom would buy things and she was starting to get a lot of things. And I would be like, oh, what are you doing with that? Right. And then I go, why do you like that? And she would go, it's old. I said, is it an antique? Meaning, is it valuable? And she'd be like, no, but it's old and I like
Yeah.
it. And it's because it was nostalgic to her, probably. It probably reminded her of her mom or something like that. Right. And I didn't get that at all. I just thought old meant lame and
Yeah.
antique meant value. So, um, I mean, I've painted furniture forever, very badly, um, for using, whatever paint was around that wasn't
Right.
made for furniture for
Yes.
years. So the thrifting has always been there. Like I've always liked to go find. I sold on eBay for a while. That's probably when it started. As I
Okay.
started selling things on eBay, and when my 22-year-old boy was little, Gymboree was off the hook, and so I would go and I would try to find Gymboree clothes, and I would sell all different kind of stuff on eBay. And I got
Oh.
pretty good at that for a while, and then um, I kind of ran out of time, and where it just sort of, fizzled out for me a little bit. The Gymboree
Mhm.
thing sort of fizzled out. And then I had already found, oh, the other thing then is I would do, yeah, I've always been kind of a flipper. My kids, I would flip their stuff and take it to the state fair. We had this thing called Just Between Friends, this huge consignment sale. And
Okay.
so I would fill either it was my van, my caravan, or a Jeep. I would fill it to the point where I could just barely get in. It was like a good thrift day for us, but I would take all that stuff and I would take it to the thing and sell it, make like $500. And it was consignment, so I
Yeah.
didn't have to do anything. So after that, and then my kids started to get big enough that they didn't have anything good, but I would go thrifting and I would find stuff that I knew would sell that I could flip. And so I did that for a while. And then by the time that kind of phased out, I was moving into the furniture. And I don't know, the first time I did like videotaped myself thrifting was a year ago in March. It was on St. Patrick's Day, because I remember I had on a green scarf and everything. And people were not kind on that first one. I was pretty terrible. I went fast and I was just all over the place. And I they had the music really loud at my Goodwill, and then I was getting copyright things. And so people would always be, I know Renee gets this from Faux Your Eyes Only too, like, you're so rough with stuff, but they don't know how much the camera is really picking up. And so
Right.
after a few of those things, then I just decided, you know what, I'm doing a voiceover. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do that. And so it's gotten a little better, but not. And so that's my one weekly video that I do for sure. I would like to do more,
Mhm.
and maybe this alphabetical thing that's hopefully going to propel me into the
Yeah.
next. Yeah.
Awesome.
But people love the thrifting videos, and I can't even. Jamie and Zeb have said that again recently, that those get more views than anything else.
Mhm.
I don't completely get it.
People, I think, love to see what's out there. I really do. I think they just love to see what you thrift and what you find, and, like, they love hearing, like, what you're gonna do with it, if you are gonna flip it, or are you just gonna put it in your store. Um, I do have to say that when I was with I actually picked it up when I was with you, this sign, and I used it in my Friday's video for my maker's box. So it was
Ah,
one of the signs that I had gotten. I used it for that. I'm almost positive it was with you. It was either you or Connie. I was like with one of you. I'm like, I thought
yeah.
it was you, but
It's fun to see what people, and when you go with friends too, and be
yeah.
like, oh, I saw those Christmas trees. Why didn't I pick those up? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. So I think it's fun. Everybody has a different vision or idea. When they're in the thrift store, I think I've said it a couple times when I've been interviewing, that I will be walking out of a thrift store and somebody will see me and they're like, "Oh, you were just in there? I'm not going in now. You got all the good
It's so
stuff." I
ridiculous.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much stuff
There
that,
is so much, and I don't
and
see everything.
no. and you don't need everything,
No.
right? And I think there's a lot of times where we'll buy the stuff that nobody else actually is going to want. There's a bunch of it that we'll get that other people would want maybe as is, but there's plenty of things that I buy to take home to paint because it is too primitive or, something
Mhm.
like that. But you can see that it still has
Right.
life left in it.
Yes, because 'cause I'm always looking for pieces for my, like, thrift to treasure videos where I thrifted and then I flip it into a treasure, and so I'm always like, when I'm thrifting, like, I'm like, "Okay, what can I grab this week to try to rescue?" And so I'm always looking for that, but I
Yeah.
did have to slow down on my thrifting, though, because I was finding too much good stuff, and I had, quite the inventory for a little bit, so
That's what's going on here right now. That's why I'm doing this whatnot auction tomorrow
yeah.
night because there's some things that won't fit the vibe of my store. And that's the other thing. Like, I think you're good at this too, is to at first I would just put something in because it was a good deal. But
Mhm.
you really need to, and Debbie Beard said this once to Jamie in a video, or Jamie said it to us that Debbie said it to her. I don't know how I know it, but Debbie said that cheapens the look of your store.
Mhm.
And that will come into my head now when there's things that I would have bought a few years ago that I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
that's not the look. Or one of the gals is so sweet. She always goes, somebody will like it. And I'm like, but we're not for everybody,
No, we're
right?
not. Mm-mm. We're
We've
for
got
our
to kind of
people.
curate sort of a
Yes.
look about what our style is here. And I think that's important.
I
And it's
agree.
hard when you're first starting because you're
Yes.
just trying to sell some stuff.
Right. Yes, absolutely. One thing that I don't think I'm gonna dive into Whatnot for, my business, but, I was thinking about even like, doing a live showcasing what I found and then putting it on my own website to drive more business to my website, so but I've heard people have been very successful on Whatnot, so
Yeah.
it's
The
really
thing
good.
that I like about it, it's so funny because again, different platforms, you can do a live sale on Facebook. I've always struggled with that though, because um, do you do the live sale on Facebook like Jamie and Zeb do, where they put everything in there and then they just open it up right before they go live and they're showing it and everybody has to go in Facebook or not and go to their website to do it? Or do you
Mhm.
do it with like comments sold or just saying I want that? The invoicing and all that management of the paperwork, if you don't do it directly through your website, is brutal,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And so what Whatnot brings to it is, first of all, it's got this curated bunch of people who love auctions and love that FOMO.
Yeah.
And then the shipping is really pretty simple. You just have
Okay.
to say how much something weighs, and then you find a box and you put it in it the next day.
Okay.
You're not having to reweigh it and everything and put in dimensions and stuff like you would have to with Shopify. I
Right.
don't know how, I think they must get so many packages that it all evens out somewhere in the wash.
Right, right. Mhm.
But it's intimidating too. There's some people who are really good at it, and like anything when you're starting from scratch, you're sort of like, okay, is anybody there?
I know. Right? Oh, I
And
know,
that
so I was like, "Do I wanna tackle something else or what do I wanna do?" So I'm
I don't think I'm gonna probably do it. I think to me, one thing they just changed too that I think is a huge game changer is that everything had to be shipped before. So even if you were local, like if you were in my town, I would still have to put it in the mail to you,
Oh, okay.
which costs usually a minimum like $8 on top of what you're buying.
Right.
But now they have this thing where you could do pickup.
Oh,
So for local pickup. So I'll have to figure that out before tomorrow because that's a game changer.
yeah.
And I think that those are easier to do than a Facebook Live sale, which I
Right.
had done those in the past. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna try it, and maybe I'll try both. I don't know.
I might just get a cadence to where I do like one a month or something, you
Right.
know, where I'm like, these are the things that either I found that were too good to pass up in the thrift store, but don't fit my store vibe.
Yeah.
Um, and or they didn't sell in my store. And sometimes you get other makers like us who are trying to buy things to stage with and stuff too, or to
Mhm.
upcycle. So
Right.
it's kind of fun because it's a whole new way of looking at things. And the auctions are only like a minute or 30 seconds long.
Okay.
And so you're showing, you're like, okay, I've got this, I've got this water bottle and it looks like it was made in this year or whatever. And then you hit the button and people just bid.
Go. Oh,
Yeah. So
fun.
that part is actually pretty fun. Yeah. Unless they're not bidding and then you're like, oh my God. But
Come on, somebody bid.
whenever that happens, if you're on whether it's a live video or a whatnot or anything, when you are there, and if you've got even one or two people there, just talk to them. Talk to those one or two people. Don't let that run around in your head. And this is more to everybody, not to you, Sana. We already know all this, right? But we've all been there where you're like, oh my God, I only have, or like the last whatnot I did, I felt like I was getting hacked because there was all these names that I couldn't pronounce that were joining from another country. And I was like, why would these people be joining?
Yes.
Right. Something seemed off. So I quit. And then when I quit, it might've been a Facebook Live too. It didn't get the audience all back.
Oh.
And then that makes you go, did I do the right thing? You're having this whole conversation in your head. And, but at the end of the day, you have to just say, oh, you know what? But Sana's here. And Sana's got me. I'll just, hey, I'll talk to her and I'll talk to everybody else. And you just carry on.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's, I mean, yes. Even when like you have 0 people like starting off on a live, my one recommendation is just go roll with it. Don't wait for people to show up, just because you're going to see so many people on the replay or people are going to watch it on the replay. So I just roll with it. I go and tell them what I'm doing and I just go for it. So
yeah. You want to hear something funny? When I was all my life, when I've cooked, like I've watched cooking shows, and I have a friend who used to do catering and stuff. And I said to her, and I would, in my head, I'd be like, okay, now we're adding the salt or whatever. And in my head, I'm like talking like I'm on the show, on a cooking show.
Yes.
And I said that to my friend one time. I'm like, do you do that too? Or like you kind of in your head pretend you're in the cooking show? And she's like, no. But then one day I was like, well, maybe that's just the way I'm supposed to be, because I do these live demos where I'm talking people through it. It's had to come out somehow.
Right? Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, like, you have been on quite the journey. That's very impressive, like how you started and you've just worked through it and you continue to, just go through, your ups and downs. And I just think that you are going to be extremely successful, with the expansion, and you're going to work through it and you are going to figure it all out. I mean, I really believe that. So,
you're so kind.
yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, like when I came to your store, it was amazing. And I love the vignettes and the thing is you're constantly trying to tweak, and that's like so important, I think.
It really is. And actually that's probably a good thing to talk about too, is that, I heard it again when I went to this conference in April, but move stuff around in retail, move it around in your booth, move it around. And people will come. It's so funny. So I have 4 part-time gals and they each work like 1 or 2 days a week, and they'll come in one day and then they'll come back the next week and they're like, well, what? Like, what have you, like, I'm not an Energizer bunny as much as I'm like a gazelle. Like I go and I get crap done and then I like hit my wall and I need to eat a sandwich and stuff. And then I'll go again for another few hours.
Yeah.
And so, but then they come in and they see that and I kind of wear it like a badge of honor too. Like, oh, look at what I've done. Right. But I don't know if I can keep that pace up always. Right. However, moving things around, people who come to your store, even on a regular basis, will be like, oh, I've not seen this before. And you can be like, that's because it was in the back corner for 6 months. Yes. Right.
Oh, absolutely. I tell the gals in my membership group, yes, move it around. You have to be like repositioning, because a lot of the same people like to visit those your store or your booth locations. And it will sell if it's just repositioned differently. So.
Yeah. Well, it freshens it up. And if you have a piece of furniture that sells, it is a good time to sort of, you don't necessarily have to overhaul the whole thing all the time, but it can start this like trickle down effect. Right. Yeah. And one of the other gals on my team is really good at like color blocking and stuff and making vignettes. And she's helped me get better at it too, because will be like, oh, did you see how good this blue looks next to that blue? And then when we put that canvas, it gets really fun.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say you guys don't have to do that part, because that's the part that is really fills my bucket and makes me proud. And the part that makes me go, oh, I get to do this. Right. Because I'll say, like, do you want to pay the taxes or do you want to do this? Right. Because I got to pay the taxes. So then you have to go wash the brushes.
Right. Right. Oh, well, I love it. Oh, so I am so excited that I've had you today. I've learned so much.
Really? You're not gonna have to cut most of it out?
No, I won't be cutting any of it out. No, I want my viewers to know who you are. And yes, so tell them, where can my viewers find you to be just as inspired? So you're on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on there. It's actually Rustic Rehabs WI, because somebody else beat me to Facebook and Instagram with Rustic Rehabs. I don't know who they are, but yeah, it's okay. I've made it work. Yeah.
Okay.
So yep. So I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. Okay. And then Whatnot is, I think I'm under there as Rustic Rehabs Jen Dunn too.
Okay.
So, and then really, if you can't, you can always go to my website, which is just my name, rusticrehabs.com, where I sell all the things. You can see the furniture. Everything we have is for sale on the website, but I don't ship furniture.
Okay.
We have not jumped into that end of the pool yet.
Yeah, I can't. That would be like a big undertaking. I give somebody credit for shipping furniture. I heard it's a pretty big undertaking. So,
yeah. You have to have somebody. You have to white glove ship it, otherwise.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I will have all of Jen's info in the description below, so you can definitely go and follow her over on all the socials and be completely inspired by her lives and all her amazing creations. And Jen, I just want to thank you for being part of our podcast. And I know my viewers are just going to absolutely love you. So thank you for that. But you guys, in next week's episode, I am going to be diving into my process of thrifting an item and how I determine how I'm going to be upcycling it. So be watching for that next week. If you guys are listening on any of the podcast platforms, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. If you are watching me over on YouTube, again, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And yes, if you haven't subscribed yet, do so. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, as well as Pinterest, where I will be definitely putting out lots more content over there. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.